My name is Christopher Lord and welcome to Insanity Fair. This is the first video in my new YouTube channel, and so I thought that the quintessential YouTube and internet subject is cats. So I thought that I'd start with some thoughts about cats and in fact dogs. Now there's a very interesting experiment that has been running in Siberia, near Novosibirsk in fact, for over 50 years now. And this is an experiment to tame silver foxes. There's a silver fox industry nearby, so they farm silver fox for fur. And so an experimental farm was set up near the fur plant, and they took some of the foxes and they selected them for tameness. In fact, they had another group that they selected for ferocity. So that the method was quite simple. They tried to feed the foxes, and if the fox tried to bite the hand of the experimenter, then it was put into one category, and if it sort of fawned and let itself be stroked, it was put into another category. This has been going on for a long time, and they have succeeded in taming the silver fox to the extent that they sell the animals as pets, and they're in fact becoming like dogs. They're becoming physically more and more like dogs. They've changed physically, and so the main purpose of the experiment is to test a hypothesis that this is how domestic dogs were formed from wolves, where there's a similar process. The idea being that somehow people selected out the least aggressive wolves, and over generations of breeding, they bred out the aggression, and that this then created these physical changes, which means in fact that the juvenile features of the animal are accentuated, so that dogs displays some of the juvenile behaviours like whining and wagging tails and so on, that young wolves display. Now I'll put a link to the to a little BBC film about this experiment, where you can get all sorts of interesting information. But one thing that I'd like to focus on before we get onto the cats is some experiments that they did on the side with this process. They took some of the tame puppies, that is, puppies from a strain that had been bred for tameness over many generations, and they put these puppies with foster mothers from the group who were very aggressive. And vice versa, they took the very aggressive ones and put them with foster mothers that were very tame. They also actually did this more thoroughly by putting embryos from one group into the wombs of mothers from the other group. And in both cases, the results were the same. The behaviour of the mother made no difference to the behaviour of the puppy. Are they puppies for foxes? Maybe they're not. Cubs. Maybe there's a special word. Foxlings, I don't know. Anyway, this is a very interesting result, isn't it? It means that all of the mothering behaviour makes no difference, that there's a genetic basis, and that will be expressed whatever happens. Now this particular behaviour, tameness or aggression, manifests itself after about 1 month, but in other species like human beings, for example, there are some behaviours that don't manifest themselves until puberty or adulthood even. And this suggests, doesn't it, that our experience of bringing up our own children is not what we think it is. We think that we put all this effort into bringing up children, and then they become like us because they are accepting our wise arguments, you know, or our brutality, or whatever methods we use. But in fact, this is probably just not true. What is probably just happening is that they resemble us because they are genetically like us, and they are programmed like us with certain behaviours. And as they mature, then these behaviours, one after another, come out, and that pleases us because they are the behaviours that we ourselves have, and we recognise them, and so we think, oh good, it's working, you know, our education, fantastic, we're doing it. Now, one of the basic distinctions that there is between boys and girls, male and female foxes, whatever it is. Some animals have greater distinctions between the sex roles than others, but in Homo sapiens sapiens there are fairly well established differences. Now, this brings me to the cats. We have two cats, one male and one female, and they both have some behaviours which are rather similar. They both come and sleep on my bed, especially in winter, for the body heat. They both wake me up around first light, hoping that I'm going to feed them. And they both like affection. They both like being stroked. And they purr. Now, the thing is that there is actually a difference in the way that they seek this behaviour. And nobody's taught them to do this. Nobody's taught them these differences. So I suppose it's theoretically possible that it's just the behaviour of these two particular cats. But actually cats are quite similar to each other in behaviour. They do have personalities. But let me just describe the different behaviour of the male cat and the female cat. Now, the male cat is very direct. When he wants attention, he jumps on me. I've got a scar on my hand, actually. I don't know if you see that? It's yeah, there we are. That's cat scratch because he jumps on me, and if I'm asleep I go like that, and he scratches me. And in fact, now when he jumps on me, if I'm working at the computer for example, he often jumps on me with his claws out ready, because he knows that I'm liable to push him off. But he jumps on me directly and he starts pushing at me because he wants to be stroked. Okay. If I'm in bed, he'll pummel me with his paws like that, you know. But he just pushes at me. Sometimes he actually pushes his face into my face to wake me up. Right, very direct. So that's the behaviour of the male. Now the female cat has quite a different way of going about it. What she does is she comes and sits in front of me, sort of about here, you know. If I'm looking at a screen, then she'll sit in front of the screen, but looking the other way. Looking the other way and just showing me how beautiful she is. Now, I know from long experience that what she wants is to be stroked. But if I Sorry, I'm living in the country. That's our mayor just went past, and it's a small French village. Um, if I reach out immediately to stroke her, then she looks outraged at me. What? How dare you? And if I carry on trying to stroke her, she will actually jump off and go and sit somewhere else and stare at me, outraged, because her dignity is very important to her. And if I'm very, very careful and very gentle and I just start stroking her just a little bit, just with my fingertips, then she'll accept that. Sort of, oh, if you really have to. And then little by little, as long as I don't do anything that's going to upset her, then she'll move closer and she'll allow me to stroke her, and then she will be very, very kind of sensual and really give her up to it, and then she'll start purring and so on. But the whole basic behaviour is geared around this fact that she is allowing me, the male, to do this to her, and that, oh well, she might as well enjoy it while she's doing it. Now, I hope you can see the point. These behaviours are the result of breeding, certainly, like the foxes. Domestic cats, it's the same thing. Actually, here we have the European wildcat. You see them sometimes driving through the forest, and the European wildcat is not that different from a domestic cat. It's a very beautiful animal. Wild animals, they have a sort of dignity that domesticated animals don't have. Dignity, a beauty, and it has a striped tail and a sort of greyish pelt with some residual tiger stripes. And in fact, a friend of mine has a cat which was the kitten of a female domestic cat which was impregnated by a wild cat. So they're really not they're not that far away from domestic cats. And domestic cats, I think they're much wilder than domesticated dogs. But still, there's some process of breeding that's gone on, but you can't really breed out femaleness or maleness. And what I would suggest is that the same is true for human beings. Thank you very much.